Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and welcome back to the series where we're building the Stack Overflow clone, and on the journey we are learning so many things. So in the last video we worked on the models and we tried to work with the code part of it. In this video, first of all, we're going to see that how we can spin up all that model into the database itself, and where could be one of those ideal places where you might want to spin that up. And of course there are many other places where you can inject that code and spin all the code bases that we want. Apart from this, we are going to also be working with Zustand, the state management library that we'll be using. This video will cover pretty much everything that you need to know about Zustand, and it's a very lightweight and pretty nice library to work on with. Very straightforward. You don't need ton of stuff or ton of setup or the setup things that we need to go through with this. Really straightforward. I love this library quite a lot. So we'll be going through with that. Before we go further with that, the comment target in the comment section is just 100 comments. If you don't know what to comment, just say looking forward for the next video. It's really a great moral booster for me. And in case you haven't yet subscribed, right now is the right time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So let me share with the screen a screen with you, and we'll be walking through with all the stuff. And where can I share that? There we go. All right, so we're onto this mode. Now we are going through with all these details. So this is all that you can see. We'll be running this. So just to give you a brief overview, we worked with the client, all the configurations are done. Hopefully there is no typo with that. And with the server, we worked with the first, the configuration part, we imported everything. Then we worked on the models one by one, the question models and all what details and all these things. We also worked, and I walked you through that creating the index is possible this way. We'll try this out again one more time. So maybe the error was just once fluff there. We'll try to work with this part as well. And then comment collection and all these things, they are straightforward copy paste of what we did. And if you have more collections like this blueprint can actually work with that. So with that said, now we want to run these applications. Now, one thing that I did a mistake, and I don't know if I should correct that or not. I think I should correct that because if you notice, this is a storage collection, but this is not a collection of the storage. This is actually a method which creates the storage whole thing. So I don't know what to name this properly. I think saying this is a storage collection would not be an ideal one, but again, it's just a naming convention. I think I would love to change this one. So I'll just go ahead and rename this one. Instead of calling this one as a storage collection, I would like to call this one as storage setup. I think that would be a better name, but again, it's just a name. If you wish, you can just keep it as it is. I think that's a better one. What we're doing inside this one is we are creating a storage bucket. Rest of those are dealing with the database setup. So that's why we call them into the DB setup, and we skipped explicitly this storage because we don't want to create a mess between the database stuff and the storage stuff. So we want to keep it separate. But since I don't know any other place to keep it separate and segregated, so I just have that. So this is just my concern here. Again, now the important question is, where should I call these DB setup and storage setup? And there are many ways how you can do it, and there is no right or wrong. Maybe as soon as your application starts, you want to just fire them up there. So inside the app, maybe the layout, as soon as the layout just sets up, you can just spin it up there. Again, no big deal there. Wherever you think you want to start your application for the first go, you can run this up. Now, one ideal thing which I think is there and is possible is actually the middleware. Now, middleware, in case you have never worked with the NextJS, is a really nice place where you can just go ahead and put a lot of things and can start them on any particular route or any particular page where you want to have. Now, where to put this middleware, that's an interesting question altogether. So in my case, since the source is the directory where everything is going on, I would love to keep all the files. Like, in fact, I have to keep all the files up here. In case you are not using the source, then you can keep it just outside in the root directory itself. But for me, since it's source, I have to create the middleware inside the source. This file needs to be specifically named as middleware, nothing else. No middlewares, no S. It just is a middleware. Middleware.ts. And in any case or any time, if you forget that how the middleware and everything works, Googling up is always your best friend. So I can just go ahead and say middleware and the Next.js. I can just work with this and routing the middleware. So they also mentioned that where to keep this file, always keep it as middleware.ts in the TypeScript. This is how it looks like and all these things. Let's go ahead and copy this so that we can just work with that. I don't remember this file exactly always. I just go ahead and come back here, copy this always and go back up here. So there we go. We have imported these all things. Now let's understand that how it actually works. A lot of people make a mistake of how it is supposed to work, but I'll walk you through that how it actually works. So this first thing is import statements, nothing to worry, and it is really required that you work with the next request and the next response. Your classic request and response, they also can work, but NextJS actually runs some additional functions and methods and do some its behind the scene magic so that everything works flawlessly. So it is important that you go ahead and use next response and next request from the next server itself. That's important. The next thing is, what is the function that you want to run? So this is your middleware, and this function runs everywhere. Yeah, this function runs everywhere wherever you want to work with this. And then comes up is this config, and where you see this matcher. So matching paths below to learn more. So what is this all going on? So this configuration and especially this matcher object, make sure that it matches whatever the path matches with this matcher object. Whole of this code is not going to run there. So this middleware, again, really important to understand, whatever the path you are matching, our code will not run there. All right, let me repeat that again. Wherever the matcher matches the path, this method, this middleware will not run there. Yeah, that's the thing. So let me go ahead and fix up this matcher first so that you actually remembers it all the time. So first of all, this one says match all request paths except for the ones that starts with. So what I don't want to work with this in this case, that I think it would be better if I go ahead and use this comment and leave it there so that you also go ahead and keep it as a memory always, for always. So what it does, whatever the path matches, our code will run, middleware will run, except the ones which are matched by the matchers. So what I want to do in this case, so I want that my code should not run anytime whenever I'm hitting an API route. I also want that it should not run anytime when I'm hitting the route which is _next static, because that's where the static assets are being served. Static. Also, I don't want that my middleware should run anywhere when I'm serving the images. So next images or image. And I also don't want that anytime my favicon is being served directly, so it should run there. And again, I don't remember or I don't know the regex to work with that. So I go ahead and simply work with converting this whole thing into, first of all, array, just like this, because you can have multiple of these routes. And then I went into the ChatGPT that, hey, give me this path with the regex, because I'm not good in regex and I'm pretty sure you are also not. So I asked ChatGPT to give me all these details. When you precisely ask ChatGPT that, hey, give me the path which actually selects all of this as /API right, this route and this route and this route, it gives you the whole pattern, and nobody cares about the patterns much. Now, the whole idea is that apart from these particular routes, this middleware function will run everywhere else. If you want to add more, you can just go ahead. This is just an array. For example, you want that my middleware should not run on /login. You can just go ahead and mention this login. If you want that my middleware should not run on the home page, you can just go ahead and mention this / as well. That this will, again, this needs to come before this whole pattern matching. So this needs to go up here. Again, I'll not go much into depth of this. This is a classic NextJS 101, but hope you get this part. Now, this is a nice place where I can go ahead and inject and start creating and populating my databases and storage. So let's go ahead and bring this up. Hopefully the auto suggestion will help me in doing so. So let's go ahead and say import get or create DB. There we go, nice and easy. And I will also go ahead and say import get or create storage. And again, it's up to you. You want to go with the / or you want to go @ totally up to you. Now I'll come back here and I'll say, before I go ahead and redirect home and all this, I don't want to do that. I want that this should actually keep on working forward. So I'll just go ahead and say next response dot next, so that this is important part. Whenever you're writing any middleware manually, you have to give this dot next so that it moves on either to the next middleware or keep on doing its regular stuff. So that's my part. But before doing that, I want to just await and I want to run a promise. Again, this is going to be promise.all because I'm running multiple of them. And inside this, I'll provide an array. And this is not an async, so it should be an async function. And there we go. Async. Should be all happy now. All right, what all do you want to do? In this one, the first thing that I want to do is run this get or create db. That's the first part I want to do. After that, I want to simply run get or create storage. So there we go. Now, hope you understand this part. Whenever our home page is being served or login page is served, this will make sure that we either get the database and store that as an instance, or we simply go ahead and create the database if it doesn't exist. Let's save this and try to run this and see how many errors we are going to go through. So npm run dev and should be all up and running. Now let's go ahead and fire this up and see what's happening in the console log. So we can see all the console log being populated. We can see that the whole storage is being created, database created, storage created, questions, comments, vote, answer created. So if there is any error, we obviously would have seen that here, but I would love to verify that again one more time. I need to refresh this. I hope this would be auto refreshed, but hey, we can just simply click and we can see all the questions and everything is created. Attributes should be there, whatever we need. Indexes we don't have because we explicitly commented that out, but right now is the good time to test it out, whether this time it works. It didn't work in our first go. So we'll just go ahead and say questions collection, and inside the questions collection, I would love to now uncomment this so that it automatically can create the indexes for me. But if it doesn't, I'll again come back and comment that and I'll manually create that. All right. So the easiest way to do it is, I think I can just delete this whole thing because it's going to be automatically repopulated. So just click and delete the database. I don't need to remove the storage. If it is already there, it's not going to be bothering us much. So I can come back on here and just hit a refresh, and I think rest all should automatically be populated. There we go. Nice and easy. We got all the error creating database or collection, attribute not available. This is the stuff that we faced in the initial time as well. So attribute not available. I don't know whether it's taking some time or something like that, because this is exactly the error we faced, that it was not able to create this. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does. It's not always a failure. I don't know if it's something wrong on the Apprite side or we are doing something wrong. Probably there's something issue because the creation of this whole thing probably is taking a lot of time and our promise is not coming back. So probably we need to restructure the code something a little bit better, or we need to create it as a separate file so that indexing can be done. But again, let me try it one more time. Just stop this and delete this. So one more time I can check this out. If it doesn't work, we'll create it manually. Again, this is the real world development. That's how it works. You go ahead and test out the stuff on the go. npm run dev. Let's go ahead and try to open this up. And should be all. Oh, one more. I have one more way to actually work with this. I'll show you that as well. And there we go. Storage created. I think this is still going on. All right, so storage and everything is created, but hey, this is still giving us issues. So let's go ahead and kill this out and try to create. That's the issue I was talking about, but I was able to do it once or twice during the testing phase. So I'll just go ahead and comment this out so that it doesn't bother us much. There we go. Should be all good. And if I go ahead and hit a refresh on this one, oh, why is it? Oh, I stopped it. We can just go ahead and manually create these two indexes. And should be storage connected. Everything is connected. All right, so let's go into the Apprite. And surprisingly, I was able to do it just before recording the video. So Stack Overflow main is there, and we have questions. And we have attributes, now the indexes, and oh, one was created. That's surprising. Title was created. Probably if I can do it a little bit better architecture of the code, probably I'll be able to do it. Probably I'm doing something wrong then. So we were able to create indexes on the title with all the things. So title is there, full text search, the attribute is title and ascending. So title, full text search, title and ascending. Let's go ahead and create another one, which is for the content. So super easy. Create the index. Let's call this one as content. This is going to be full text search. The attribute is going to be content, ascending, and create. That's it. Told you, it's super simple to work on with. All right, so there we go. Now we have both of these attributes all done. So database is set up. We were able to see, figure out, learn on the go, and I think the database part is all sorted. All right, so now that the database part is all sorted, let's move into the Zustand. And by the way, who are watching, please put that in the comment section, as this is the Zustand starting part. So timestamp would be really, really awesome and helpful. So for this one, we'll be using Zustand. Let me go ahead and walk you through. There are so many state management library that you can use with Next and React. I will be going with the Zustand. This is the homepage of the Zustand. This is how nice, cute bear is there, and it gives you idea of how it works. What I want to walk you through with that is the documentation of the Zustand, because this is where things gets a little bit interesting. Let's go up here. And I want to go into the docs. There we go. This is the docs. Dark mode would be good. There we go. So Zustand, it's a state management library which actually simplifies a lot of your tasks. Now, you might have heard about the state management library like Redux, Redux Toolkit, Zotai. There's so many of them. Zustand is the straightforward of them all, and it's the super easy to work on with that. As you can see, this installation phase is npm install Zustand, super easy. So let's go ahead and first walk through along with the documentation. We'll copy this and we'll say that, hey, we need to work with a Zustand. A new index would be good. Zustand is installed, pretty lightweight, pretty easy. Then it asks you to create the store. All right, so we'll be creating the store, and then we need to bind the component with that. I'll walk you through with the steps that we are going to take. Not only the steps, we also need to work with some of the middlewares as well. So as you can see, the integrations, if I can just move it a tiny bit there, it's easier for you to see. As you can see, there are integrations available. One is the Immer integration, which is super helpful. We'll be using this. And we will be also using the persistent store data. So these are the two of the integrations we'll be using. Why for that? Immer is the library which allows you, so there is one thing in the state management thing is, you never mutate the state. You never change the existing state. You always create a new state so that there is a list of all the things that you're doing. Immer is one such library which makes things easier. There is a way of how you write the code in the state management library. It was really such a pain to work with the state management library like Redux, because every time I have to take care whether I'm changing the state or not changing the state. I can accidentally change the existing state and it can like haywire my entire code. But with the implementation of this Immer library, which is also there in the couple of others as well, this allows me to write the code the way I want to write. I can modify the state, I can change the state, but under the hood, it actually keeps the state all the time persistent. I am always mutating the new state. I'm not mutating the existing state. So that's where the Immer library comes in. Another one that is there is the persistent storage. So Immer is super easy to work with that. We have to install this. So let's go ahead and grab the Immer as well. We'll be using this. Some of the libraries actually install Immers for you automatically behind the scenes. Zustand doesn't. You have to install this. Another one that we'll be using is persistent data storage. You don't have to actually grab it. It actually comes from the Zustand middleware as well. What it does is it allows you to persistently store all the states in your local storage. So we'll be walking you through that how actually it works and how you can create a local storage or a persistent storage of all of this. This is useful, especially for the NextJS, because NextJS runs on the edge and we need something like this. Without this, the state management libraries are not going to work. Specifically, we will be using this on rehydrate store. This option enables you to pass a listener function that will be called when the store is hydrated. That means, obviously, we are storing the data in our local storage. Somebody needs to bring that data back from the local storage in our application. And that's what the hydration means in terms of the Zustand. So on rehydrate store, and we'll be working. So we'll be just going through with this one simple function, super easy to work on with. So there we go. Now let me walk you through with the steps that we'll be taking, because sometimes it goes a little bit haywire. I don't want to do that. I want to be very specific that what we'll be doing. So let me go ahead and write all these steps. First of all, we'll be working with the import statements. So imports, for example, we need the models, any of the AppWrite SDK. So all these import statement will goes in the first step. Then in the next step, what we need is the interface definition. Since we are using TypeScript, the next step always is to write interface definitions. This is simple. We just define what methods are going to be created, what's the expected output from those methods. If we're using any variables, we just mention them. After that, we're going to go ahead and create a Zustand store. So that's the basic 101. Whenever you're using any such library, go ahead and create a store. And in this store, Zustand store itself will be going through with the two libraries. The first one is going to be setup of the immer, which is super easy. And another one is going to be a simple persist. So these are part of the Zustand. So I can just link them up and can just go like this, that, hey, this is all one simple thing, or all the things. Now, once we are done with this and our store is being created, then we can just go ahead and start with the store state and methods. This is where the actual logic and actual working happens. So what's the store looks like, what's the variables, what's the object inside it, and if there is any method like creating a new user, logging out a user, finding if there is an existing user that is there, or creating an account, logging in, all these information goes up into these methods. So actual functionality part goes into this one. Now, one thing we are done with this one is, actually it comes before and after as well. So this persist thing, we need to work after the functionality as well. And after that, we'll talk about this last method that is there, which is for rehydration. There we go. So this is our step, and I know it looks like a lot, but it is not. It is not. Once you start working with it, you'll find that, hey, this is fairly easy. And we'll be referring this guide again and again quite a lot. So there we go. You have all of your details. Now let's go ahead and create a store and start working with that. All right, so rest of things can go away. There we go. We can close this. And app, we have model. I think we should be keeping that inside a new folder. That would be good. Let's create inside the source a new folder that we're going to call this one as store. Feel free to call this anything. No such restrictions on naming this. I'll create a new file which will be called as auth.ts. So this will be my store whole thing that we'll be going through. Now, a couple of import statements. What we are going to need for this one. First, we are not going to need to create a store. So we're going to go ahead and say import, and we'll be needing a create. This create is going to come from the Zustand so that we are able to create our store. The next thing that we need is the immer library, so that we don't really care about how the library is getting changed or mutated, just like that. So we have Zustand middleware, which comes up as a immer. Another thing, to persist the things, we need the persistent. So we'll be saying persist, again, Zustand middleware. There we go. So these are my libraries which are required for me from the Zustand side. Now, obviously I need more so that I can write the functionality for that. And these all things are going to be coming up from the app write itself. So I can just bring them up from the app write. And since this is going to be login based, I am just using app write, not the Node SDK. If you want to persist more stuff from the Node as well, there's no need, I guess, because those things actually happens on the server itself. But again, it's your choice. So I'll be using one of the app write exception because things go wrong. So I'll be using that one. I'm on the TypeScript. I'll be using the ID and I'll be using the models from it. So that's my personal one. And I'll also need some of the configuration, but from the client side configuration. These are from app write. So we'll be saying I'll be needing account, and that account will come from the client config. There we go. Nice and easy import. There we go. So this is all what we have as of now. Now we'll be creating some reputation for the user. So what is this reputation? We're building a Stack Overflow. We will be creating a user's reputation. Each user will have its own reputation based on how many upvotes he have, how many downvotes he have. So based on that. So I would love to create a separate interface for this one. This is TypeScript 101. So this one is user prefs, and just like that. And this one we'll be calling it as reputation, and this will be a number. In case you are storing more users preference and reputation, and again, this should not be here. There we go. If you have more users preferences like their dark mode, light mode settings and all of these things, that can also go up here. Depends on what application you are creating. Once I'm done with this, then the very first step that is I'm doing right now is the interface. All the interface that you are trying to use or you have intention to use, you have to write them up here. I'm going to go ahead and create a pure interface this time. And I'll be calling this one as auth store. Again, auth store, feel free to name it whatever you like. In this interface, I have to mention what all the data will come up. This includes all the variables and the methods. So first for me is going to be session, whether the user has an existing session or not. And I can find that up simply by using the models.session. And this is given to me by the AppWrite itself. And there are chances that this could be null. There is no session. There are high chances of that. So that's my first variable. I'll also be using JWT, maybe. And during the login, the JWT works. So JWT is a string, and there are chances that it could be null as well. So that's the next one, null. After that, we have a user. There are chances if the user might exist. So for this one, I'll go ahead and say this is my models.user, again given to me by the models. And for this one, there are chances there could be a user, and there are chances that it could be a null. There we go. Now in this one, this is giving us a simple error. Just because this user, it has no idea how does the user looks like. So we'll be creating an explicit user, which is going to be generic type. So let's just go ahead and say that this is going to be generic type. And inside the user, we are expecting that at least a user preference might be there or might not be there. Again, totally up to you. If you want to just go ahead and create a user with, hey, my user will have name, email. So go ahead and mention that here, name and email, and just pass it on up here. All right. And then one last thing we'll be having for the variable type is hydrated. So whether I'm already hydrated or not. So I'll load this one as Boolean. This hydrated thing, I'll be making it dependent on the Zustand itself. All right, it looks so many unknown things right now, but it will all get clear. This is the toughest part, is the interface. You don't write functionality in it. You just make sure that you are writing what is intended. So we'll be having a method. We'll call this one as set hydrated. What this method will do, we'll work on the functionality part later on, but this method will be returning nothing. So I'll just say void. This gives me nothing. Basically, this will be responsible for checking or putting things into the hydration, whether they are good or not, they are coming back from the local storage or not. That's it. We'll also have a method. Let's call this one as verify session. There we go. What this method will return? This method will return me a promise. And that promise might have data, might not. We'll figure it out later on. So I'll just go ahead and say it doesn't give me anything apart from the promise. We'll have a method. Obviously, we want to log in the user, create the account. Let's start with the login. So whenever somebody is creating a login method, he will be passing me a couple of variables. So let's just say he passed me an email that will be in the string format. It also gives me a password that will also be in the string format. And once it does it, it returns me back a promise, just like this. And inside the promise, there might be a generic object, which gives me a success. This is AppWrite 101. Boolean, which is true or false, whether the login was successful or not. And there could be errors as well. So I can just write one more variable here, that is error. And that optionally might be there, might not be there. But if it is there, let me just go ahead and move it all onto the next line. It's much easier to see it like this. And there we go. All right. So this error might be optional. And this is the reason why actually I imported the AppWrite exception. So if the errors is coming up, that is obviously going to be AppWrite exception, but there might be a chance that it might be null. There are no errors. So there we go. So this is how you design your simple login, nothing else. There will be also one more method which will be responsible for creating the account. That could be just exact duplicate of this one. And we'll say instead of login, this time this one is going to be create account. This time you'll be giving me email, password, and you'll be giving me name as well. You can add more properties as well, but I'm happy with this. So you give me name, email, and password. This will again be a promise where I can have a success. And I guess I'm doing something wrong. Nope. This needs to be like this so that I can see what's happening. And this also needs to go like this. So this could be a success, and AppWrite exception could be there. Looks good, looks good. What else we have? We'll be having one more, which will be simple logout method. And this will be nothing much with simple promise, which will return us nothing. So we'll just go ahead and say this will be white. And there we go. So we have designed an interface that what this whole file will be doing. So this is this part, interface definition. This comes up because we are using TypeScript. If there would be no TypeScript, we wouldn't be having this. If it is a classic JavaScript, I don't have to work with any such thing. All right, so this part is done. Now let's create a Zustand store so that how we can do that and all these details. And once we are done with this, then we'll work about the immer and the persist. Let's go ahead and work with this. Okay, so next step, obviously we want to export this. So export const. Let's call this one as use auth store. There could be multiple stores that you can have. Usually this is only just the one store, but you can have many methods inside. We'll use the create method, which is provided us by the Zustand. And inside this, we'll be saying that there is an interface that it follows. And the interface we mentioned as iauth store. This create is a method. So by the way, in case this is confusing you, this is how it looks like. So create, and then inside this create, you provide a chaining method just like this. But in this case, we'll be just saying that, hey, this is based on the store. And once we are creating this store, immediately we pass on a method onto this one. We actually calls this one. And then we provide all these store APIs to work on with this one. The first one that we'll be going is persist, which is a method like this. And there could be more of these methods. I'll walk you through with this, but we'll keep everything as persist. All right, what goes inside this persist? Again, you have to go through with the documentation, but since you're watching the video, you don't have to worry about much of these things. First thing that I'll go through with is immer. So everything that I'll write, all the functionality will go inside the immer. And immer will take care that automatically the states are mutated, not mutated. I'll not worry about that part. Apart from this, I can provide some of the configuration options into this one that will help me that what should I name this store, what should it be called, because there could be more of these ones. So let's go ahead and say that this one will have a name. First, we'll finish this one and we're going to call this one as auth. There we go, nice and easy. And then after that, we'll be using this method, which will be inside this one. So this exact method on rehydrate storage, this is exactly what we want. It sometimes takes an existing state and can work with the return, all these things. We'll be keeping almost exactly same, the exact replica that we study from here, but we'll write it on our own so that it's relatively easy to work with. So come up here and we'll be saying on rehydrate storage, just like this. This will be a method just like this. And what this method does, it actually returns. There we go, return a callback, just like this. And when it returns the callback, almost every method that you're using in the storage has an access to the state. You don't declare the state, but automatically Zustand creates one for you. If you're using another library like Redux Toolkit or something, you have to explicitly mention that. In Zustand, you don't need to. So this is what we have. And what we write inside this, we'll use a simple if statement. If there is no error, we are able to successfully load the state. Then go ahead and just pass on this state when optionally it is in the set hydrated. We don't have this method yet. It will be available in a second, but this is all what we need. So again, just summarizing this, Zustand is a pretty decent library, but once you see this, it's super easy. All we did so far was importing the stuff. Then we simply did is the interface design. Whatever all methods we need, we designed that. Every single time you create a store or create all these things like this whole thing, Zustand store, immer and persist, the straightforward syntax is there. We use the create method where you provide the interface. The first thing that we did is we want to just persist everything. We want to keep everything in the local storage. So we are wrapping everything inside the persist. If you want to study more about the persist, you can go ahead and do so. So this is immer middleware. So you can notice exactly same steps. So everything goes inside the immer. Whatever the variables, whatever the functionality you go ahead and do, that goes inside the immer. We will be using the exact same syntax of set and everything. And this is exactly as you can see here as well. Just a second. This is where we use the create. We provide the interface. We provide this method and then we chain on this method. So we are using exactly same, nothing coming out of the thin air. All right, so once we are done with this, we also added injection of this on rehydrate store. So we studied that and we worked with that. So that's all what we are doing. Now it's time that we actually go ahead and define our functions and variables and all these things. So super simple way to work with that is exactly like this. We use this kind of a callback, but remember the callback syntax, it's tricky. This is parenthesis, this is arrow function, and this also is a parenthesis, not the curly braces. A lot of people does this mistake. So go ahead and follow the syntax. So the syntax looks like this. We have this, then we goes like this, and then we have this. Then here we go ahead and use this set method, which is a setter. Every time you set any variables, you add any data, Immer will take care that you are not overwriting the existing state. You are creating a new state, following the rule of never mutate that state. That's why this state is there. Once we are here, we simply go ahead and write our big gigantic object, which has all the data that we need, all the methods, all the variables, whatever you need. I need a couple of them. So I'll have a session, which initially will be null so that no logged in user is having a session. And then we have JWT. You guessed it right. This will also be initially null. So that's the state, initial state that I have. I will have a user, which will be nobody as of now as the starting of this. And then we simply have this hydrated variable, which will be false. Initially, nothing is hydrated because there is no data to be populated. Once we are done with this, then we can start defining our methods. This will keep on giving you the errors because you are not following the IA auth store whole interface. So by the time you haven't written all these methods, this will keep on giving you the error. These red squiggly line, not the errors. The first method that we are going to work on is this set hydrated. So this set hydrated is a method. What it does, every single method is going to use set because, hey, we have to pass on everything through the Immer. We go with this and we simply go ahead and say that if this method has run, we are going to call this one as hydrated to be true. There we go. And again, these are so many red squiggly line, but bear with me. This is not going to go anywhere. So this set hydrated method automatically comes up from the hydration, so on rehydration method. This is a part of this create method. It automatically takes care of all the things. You don't have to do much up here. Let's go into the persistent, and if I can find it, storage type, and if I can just copy this and search it. There we go. So this is a set hydrated message, which does all the things magically for you. You don't have to do anything inside that. That's the beauty of the Zustand. I don't even have to call JSON.load local storage, nothing. It does all the things for me. All right. Now let's define the methods one by one, that what all methods we have. The first one is verify session. Set hydrated is done. Verify session. How does the verify session looks like? First of all, this is an async method because I'm talking to the database. Async. Did I wrote async correct? Hopefully. This one is going to be verify session. There we go. I think I can just get rid of this squiggly line if I go ahead and create all these methods first. We'll give you a little bit of the easy way. So async, and this one will be login. There we go. And after that, ooh, nice and easy. At least a little bit easy life. Async, and this one will be create account. And the final one will be async logout, which will be a method again. All right, at least less squiggly line, happy about it. So there we go. All the methods we define just like this. And inside this, you simply go ahead and write your logic just the way you write it. So super easy. So let's try to verify whether we have a session or not. So let's go ahead and work with the simple try catch. In case there is an error, we'll be doing a console log of the error. And we can just go ahead and say error. We can write more messages later on. All it does is it awaits, and we have this account access, and it can ask get session, just like this. And we want the current session, so you have to pass on a string which says current. It will give you the current user if there is one. I can just go ahead and say session just like this, and that's going to be a wait. All right, and once I'm done with this, then I use this set. Consider this as a state variable, almost like a state, the React state. So we'll be using set. This is a method. Inside this method, I have an object, and I want to modify an object, which is going to be simply current. So how do we do this? Should be session just. Yeah, there we go. Session colon session, or we can just go ahead and say session. So should be all good now. Let me go ahead and quickly verify this. All right, looks good. And yes, sometimes these squiggly line go away. What I did is just hit an enter and a squiggly line went away. So there we go. We did exactly same thing here as well. Set and hydrated is true once we run this method. And that's it. We don't have to do anything much. Verify session, we inquired about some data, then we simply went up and set the session. So there we go, super easy. Now in case of logging in the user, should be exactly same. So we run simply a try catch. In case of catch, we can just go ahead and console log this and we'll say error. And what should be the try? Again, same await. We need to take a hold of the account, and this will be having a create method. So create email password session. Yep, that's the one. And this is a method which takes email. So we can pass on the email and we can further pass on the password just like this. And once this is done, I can hold the response into a session because it gives you session back just like this. All right. Too many red squiggly line. Hate that. All right. So once the session is done, it actually stops my thinking somehow. What I can do further is I can actually, based on this, I can grab the user and the JWT. The way you do it, again, copy paste it from the docs. You go ahead and extract user like this and JWT like this. And the way how this is going to come up is await. You have to fire up a promise. And this promise needs an all, just like this, an array, just like this. And then we have to fire up two promises, two requests. The first one is simply get, which gets you a user. And the response that we are going to get back is going to be automatically the type of user prefs. Another request that we have to make is going to be account dot create JWT. So that is going to create a JWT token for me. And how can I get rid of these squiggly lines? Save this. Should be all good. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and set some reputation for the user. Let's just say at the initial time, if there is no reputation, we're going to go ahead and create or set a reputation of 0. But before I do anything else, this red squiggly line is not allowing me to think. So I'll just go outside of this and I'm going to just do a hack. Again, you shouldn't be doing this, but hey, I'm not able to think. So I'm going to go ahead and fire back an object, which is say success, and that's going to be true. And there we go. Still doesn't really remove anything. All right, let's go work with that. So now we have at least an object of user and JWT. What should we do next? Set the reputation of the user if it doesn't exist. So let's run a simple if statement. And we're going to go ahead and say if there is no user dot prefs and optionally there is no reputation, then we simply go ahead and say await account dot update preference, no suggestion, update prefs. There we go, update preference. And inside the preference, we can just say we want to update a preference just like this and say reputation, no suggestion, reputation will be 0. And we should also say that this update preference will be type of user prefs. Oh man, too many squiggly lines, too many squiggly lines. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Once we are done with this, then let's use a set. Inside the set, we set up all these variables. We have session, we have user, and we have JWT. And I don't know why is it squiggly lines. And I should be reloading the window. There we go. Thank goodness it went. Ah, no, it's back. Why are you here? It says argument type set. Let me check this. Why this is giving me so many errors. Found it. My bad. I was doing something wrong. So the way we have designed the interface for login is it takes email and password, but no matter what happens, it returns a promise, which is success, boolean, and error. There might be some error, which is optional, but it should return a success. And what I was doing wrong is in the console log, I was just saying, hey, let's just do a console log, which is not the case. We should be returning some stuff here. So let's just go ahead and return this. And in this one, we'll be saying that success in this case becomes false. And what else? The error is going to be error. And that is going to be an instance. error instance of, and this will be an app write instance, app write exceptions. If that is the case, we're going to go ahead and simply say error, or we're going to go ahead and set a null. All right, so this should be it. And this should be it. I'm returning it now. What else do you need? All right, come on. In the case of error, we are console logging. We are returning the success false. We are returning the error. What else it needs? Perhaps my code editor is behaving a little bit odd, or probably that's a TypeScript suggestion, or I should not be in the active development mode. Probably that's the case. The application is constantly running and checking all the things. It shouldn't be checking that fast. All I did was just hit an enter here. I don't know. We'll figure out, because right now there is no guarantee that this code is correct. We are just assuming that what we are writing is correct. We'll definitely go ahead and work with this, test this out, and this is how everybody works. Let's go ahead and work with this one. And what else we can do? What we can do here is, once we are having this email and password, we can actually typecast them a little bit if you wish. Not really compulsory, but let's go ahead and make it more TypeScripty. So we'll go ahead and say string, and this password could be the string. Again, the moment I touch the code, it starts just like that, and that doesn't go away. Yeah, told you, this is what's happening. This is what I was debugging. I just hit an enter, it just works. Don't know. All right, so login part is hopefully done. The creation part is comparatively easy. We just go ahead and say this will be a string, and we have this will also be a string, and then this will also be a string. And the best part which I like about this one is I don't have to encrypt the password. I just have to send all the details to the app, right? They will take care of everything. All right, so this time I'll copy paste some stuff. So I just want to return, not the console log. Of course, I want to do the console log, but I want to get till up here. So console log return success. There we go. Copy this, and I'll paste it up here. So console log is there, return success, and all these things are there. And there we go. Get some help. All right, so next up is try part. So how do we create an account? Super simple. We go ahead and simply say account dot, and we simply say create. That's it. Super easy method. And this is going to create an account. And for this one, we'll be using ID. Did we imported the ID? And did we imported the ID? Yeah, we imported the ID up here. So we can just use this to create a unique ID for this one. So whenever you're creating an account, use an id.unique so that you provide the unique reference point to this one. And we'll have the email, we'll provide you the password, and we'll also provide you the name. Order doesn't really matter in this case. And that's it. Once you are done with this, go ahead and return a success. We're not doing much in this case, so we'll just go ahead and say success is true. While creating the account, we are not setting anything up, so let's just keep it just as it is, so nothing to worry about. At least the red squiggly line is not there. And finally, last, the logout method, which is again super simple, and we have designed it simple as well. So in here, the logout just sends you a promise. No worries there. All right, so it should be all technically good. Again, same try catch. In case of catch, we'll do a console log, which is going to dump down the error. And we'll try this. We'll say await account, just delete the session. And there are a couple of methods actually. When I studied the documentation, you see that there is a delete session, there is a delete sessions. Sessions removes all session. This session removes the current session, or you have to give the list of all the sessions. I prefer the session, so log him out from everywhere. Most important part is go ahead and set everything null in, again, otherwise he'll be logged in. So we can just go ahead and say this time the session, this becomes null. What else we have? JWT, that's important. You go ahead and make the JWT as null, and you set the user, that will also be null. If you have anything else in mind, just go ahead and make it also null. So there we go, save this and hit an enter, there we go. So this is all. I told you the Zustand part was fairly easy. We just learned about we can have the persist and we can have the immer to make sure that we don't worry about the immutation or the change of the state, persist to persist the storage of all the things. If you're using persist, it makes sense that you go ahead and also use the rehydration, which is passed on as a separate object inside the persist. And this is where you write all the methods. So that's it. That's your Zustand. Now your Zustand, and since you have exported this store, is ready to be questioned every single time or any given page that, hey, whether the user is logged in, what's the JWT, what's the session. You can use the methods for functionality like creating the account and all of that. So that is it. That is your Zustand 101. We haven't tested this out. We will definitely do that in the upcoming videos when we'll be taking down the login and the registration part. So that should be fairly simple. All right, quite a lot of stuff and almost 1 hour of a video. So that's it for this one. Hope you're enjoying this, and let's catch up in the next video.